realizing the problem with me not having my screen up is I never know when the recording starts. So it could have been going for 2 hours and I wouldn't know. Is it going right now?
It has begun.
I'm glad I know that. Learn this thing. Hello, everybody, and welcome to... I was about to say Star Wars for some reason. I'm very sick and kind of out of it, folks. So please bear with me. This is Disney+Pals. I don't know why I was gonna say Star Wars. I am joined by Jack of all trades and Scott Smire. Say hello, guys.
Hey.
And today we are continuing our. I was gonna call it a pickology, a pickagy. We're doing our picks, like where everybody gets to pick something we review. And today is Jack's episode, and we are reviewing episodes 1, 2, and 3 of the Owl House. So before we even get started, Jack, was there any specific reason you wanted to pick these 3 things, or a connection to you why you wanted this over anything else?
I could continue to pull Gravity Falls merch off my bookshelf, but I just grabbed the one to match Cal.
Please do.
I considered us doing Gravity Falls for my pick, but we'd all seen it already, and me and Callum over on my channel a few years back did a big video talking about Gravity Falls. So I wanted to do something different. There's something I still enjoyed, and would be curious to find out what you guys thought, what your thoughts on it were. Gravity Falls, I really enjoyed, and this is a show by many alumni of said project. So I figured let's give this a go. Disney's The Owl House, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you messaged us and were like, "Oh, what is your guys' connection to Gravity Falls?" Then when I revealed I've seen every episode, you were like, "Oh, Phineas and Ferb, I saw every episode." So there was definitely also a bit of a desire to show something new to your buddies, and I appreciate that. I really liked this.
I wanted to show something new, mainly to get your fresh thoughts on it, rather than something you've seen before and you have preconceived notions of as well. I think that's always fun.
Yeah, fresh thoughts are a lot better than thoughts you gotta put in the microwave. I think that's one of the good things about us reviewing stuff like the Marvel shows, where we're literally reviewing them as they come out. But I really like the show, even though I am going to be a little critical of it, because I think my major criticism is going to be it's the first couple of episodes. They don't have their footing yet. But I do like the show, and you did technically succeed because I kept watching after these 2 episodes.
Oh, very nice.
And we'll probably just watch the whole show in my spare time.
That's fair. I think season 2 is still slated for this year, but it won't come out on Disney Plus until the entire season's aired, because that's just how Disney's doing it.
You see, this is how behind I am on shit. I haven't seen DuckTales season 3 yet.
Oh, me neither.
And it came out a couple months ago. I need to.
Is that something worth noting is that Gravity Falls, it changes you, man, and it changed the way that the Disney Channel was formulated. There is a distinct difference between the animated shows that came before and after Gravity Falls. It made an impact. The way it was told, the atmosphere, the comedic flair it had as well. It really revolutionized the Disney Channel, and many other shows have been coming out trying to cash in on this success ever since. There was the Owl House. There's Amphibia. There was the DuckTales reboot. Watching these shows, you think, yeah, you can tell that part of them are trying hard to be the new Gravity Falls. I mean, I can hardly blame them. I mean, Gravity Falls was a really successful show, and I know a good story when I see one, just a well-told one, so you know. And
Mhm.
These shows may not always be picture perfect, but they try. They certainly try, and you can definitely see the sort of after effects. Gravity Falls made an impact.
Yeah, I do think that, like, I want to say it was around the time of Adventure Time on Cartoon Network, where shows and stuff were starting to realize, oh shit, hold up, we can like do this cartoon thing for adults and kids. Like Avatar wasn't just an anomaly. I think anybody can do this. And yeah, ever since, like, I kind of credit it to Adventure Time, honestly, because ever since then, we've had these shows that are quirky and have little, like, weird sort of ticks to them that kids will get into, but also they're telling deeper stories and have funny jokes that adults would get into. Like, Star versus the Forces of Evil is something that an adult can watch and enjoy, or an 8-year-old can watch and enjoy. And that's a big feat. You never want to understate that, like, appealing to multiple audiences is easy, because it is not.
Yeah,
it's interesting you bring up Star vs. the Forces of Evil, because for me, I remember when Gravity Falls ended, the night it ended, being in the UK and not having access to the prime American Disney Channel, found some illegal stream of someone casting the Gravity Falls finale and watched it live as it aired. And I think very wisely, Disney knew what they were doing. It's like, okay, this is the end of this show. Play the finale again. Okay, awesome. But then after that, they played the first 2 or 3 episodes of Star vs. the Forces of Evil. I'm like, oh, good. I don't have to mourn Gravity Falls. I can just keep riding this. This is my replacement. This is my substitute to fill this void in my soul. With Star vs. the Forces of Evil for a bit.
We need something
Star
more.
was good. I don't think it's as good as Gravity Falls. I think the last season had some problems, but the first few were great.
So
this is the closest for me, I think, a show has come to recapturing that Gravity Falls feel. Again, largely due to the people behind the scenes. This is the closest. Hasn't reached it, but closest for me.
Well, I'll tell you a hint about why they came close. The creator is apparently Alex Hirsch's girlfriend.
Correct, Dana Terrace.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that. I know
yes,
Alex Hirsch was in the episode. He plays King. But I had no idea his girlfriend makes the show.
I recognize that voice. I thought that sounded like a Bill Cipher-y kind of good. I thought that was Alex.
Yeah, she got her start. She was a storyboarder on Gravity Falls as well. She did some directing for some episodes of the DuckTales reboot as well. And she was storyboarding recently on the Mitchells vs. the Machines, that new movie on Netflix. That, again, also has many Gravity Falls alumni in the production team for that.
I really like Star versus the Forces of Evil, just to like bring that up, because I wouldn't be surprised if at one point in our future we do cover that. But I liked it a lot. I famously, like, I was selling this show's praise. I was all about this show for season 1 and season 2, and we got to like the last season, and I stopped watching halfway through because it just wasn't as good anymore, and I don't really know why. It's just they were focusing in directions that didn't seem interesting to me. And that's always something I find fearful. And I have heard the criticism that everything on Disney Channel is a little samey now. Like, people compare Star vs. the Forces of Evil to Amphibia, Gravity Falls and stuff. Like, they're like, these shows are so similar. And I kind of get what they're saying, because they're all like quirky comedies that they're trying to tell deeper. That being said, though, the settings are different. The whole story is different. And I view it all as very fun. Like, I even view that sometimes DuckTales can go, in my personal opinion, beyond what was kind of set up in Gravity Falls. And I love Gravity Falls, but I think I might like DuckTales just a little more. So, like, I think playing with this formula they seem to have is really working with them and getting us some really creative and new stuff. Ergo, today's episode on the Owl House.
Yes. So, episode 1, a lying witch and a warden. Thoughts?
Hello, darkness, my old friend. No, I thought Neil was gonna go.
What?
Sorry, were you gonna go first or me?
No, I was just going to talk about the pun here about how it's lying witch warden, and that sounds very similar to lion witch wardrobe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I only just got the joke, right?
A lot of the
saw it
titles are all
immediately.
puns.
As soon as I saw LWW, I was like, I see what you're doing here. I fucking get what you're doing.
All right, nice to
Episode
know.
one.
Appreciate it.
Episode 1, for the briefest of synopsis, is about a girl named Luce who is honestly kind of batshit crazy at times. She throws snakes at people. She gets sent to summer camp, but before she can leave, an owl steals her shit, and she's sucked into the magical world of the Boiling Isles, where she meets the owl lady, a dog named King, and they need a human to help them retrieve King's crown, which is supposed to give King unlimited power. Spoiler alert, it does not. It's literally from Burger King.
Burger Queen, riding that copyright line.
Honestly, when I saw it, I was like, I just love the fact that they fucking ripped off Burger King.
Wait a minute. If you're saying it's copyright, it's Disney. They can get away with it. They have Star Wars and Marvel. For goodness sakes.
I am not going into you with copyright law, but Disney does not own Burger King.
Yes. Yes
all
is the
the
key word there.
Here, I'll put all the Burger King adverts on there. Disney will sue us. You'll see.
I can't wait to see the Burger King Disney Plus show once they acquire Burger King.
Oh, yeah. Give us the fast food cinematic universe,
Yeah, they gotta buy Burger King, Wendy's, KFC, McDonald's, and then throw them in the Avengers.
Yeah.
Isn't what Martin Scorsese is saying about the MCU? Fast
Here's
food.
the thing, this is how we convert him. We buy the Burger King film and we get Martin Scorsese to direct.
This R-rated mafia film about the Burger King.
You think you're a king? You ain't nothing but a burger slinger. I'll show you what I am.
Fat how? How am I fat? What do you mean fat? Fat as in I eat too much greasy sandwiches? Fat as in go to Burger King, give myself a cheap crown on my head? What do you mean fat? Huh?
And then the Avengers come in. That's just what has to happen. But of course, they have to break into this place, which is a prison for the weird, I believe.
The conformatorium,
They let out all the weird people. They get the crown back and don't do shit. And Luz decides to stay in the Boiling Isles. That way she can learn from the owl lady on how to become a witch. I think that I detected a pattern sort of with shows like this. Like specifically, the one I guess I'm going to compare it to most here is Star versus the Forces of Evil and Amphibia. I've noticed that every episode of shows like this is, look at the world. And then the second episode is usually the world was cool, but just so you know, main character, it's not all going to be fun and games. You got to wake up. I liked this episode a lot. I do at times think it was trying a little hard to like be iconic. Like there are a couple designs where I'm like, what are you doing there? Why are you like legs? And it really intrigued me, but also I was like, what are you doing? You're weird for the sake of being weird, and that's kind of something that I think is going to be a pattern in the show. And at least on first viewing, I was like, oh, it's kind of forced. None of it feels natural. I do wonder if later this will change, though.
That's interesting. What's the borderline of these kind of shows where the weird is too weird, or the weird is immersive but still kind of strange, or it's not funny but it's still intriguing, or it's intriguing but it's not funny, or something like that? Because my mind is leaping towards another show that was similar to Gravity Falls. It's not a Disney show, but it's somewhat similar. It's called you both have seen this. It's Over the Garden Wall. This is a show where it's hypnotizingly weird. Like, whenever I watch the show, I'm not in hysterics like Gravity Falls, but the way the characters speak and the concepts they introduce, it's very weird, but it's this kind of weird where it kind of invites you in and just think, okay.
I think what it was, and I think this may be my personal limit. Again, this is only my opinion here. That's all I have to share. I think the weirdness kind of drowned it out everything else. Like, they establish at the beginning that Luce is a very weird character, and that she's like outgoing and people see her as strange, but that's a good thing. And then as soon as she gets to the Boiling Isles, and she's surrounded by all of these strange things, she kind of becomes the straight man. Like, she weirdly becomes the normal one. And I don't know if I liked that dynamic. I also think it happened, like, too soon. Like, with Over the Garden Wall, like you mentioned, there's sort of this build-up where it's just a brother and it's just two brothers and a frog in the woods. And they're just walking around, they're learning things. They find this little cottage, and they meet a strange man who is telling them, like, all these stories about something in the woods, about this beast. And then when you finally see, like, the creatures and the beast, it is kind of built up to this weirdness. Like, you've heard the story, you know it's coming, it freaks you out. But here, we follow an owl into a portal, and then instantly it's like, my hand can come off of my arm, and I can sell things to feed people. It's just one of those things where it's like, I'm not, like, out of it, but it was kind of a whiplash thing where I was like, oh, we're going straight in, okay. Yeah, again, I like this show a lot. Unfortunately, like, I acknowledge these are nitpicks, but, like, you know, you got to be critical of this stuff here and there, and overall, I feel like the show is really good, really funny. I just felt like I had that whiplash where it was like, whoa, this world is a little much. Maybe overdoing it. But what did you think, Jack? I'd love to get your opinion on it.
I think that's a fair point. I do think that could be argued to be in the show's favor, that you, like the main character, are now overwhelmed by this crazy new world, and over the length of the show, you get more used to it, and you learn the ins and outs, and it is more character-focused than world-focused for a lot of it, until you get to the lore and backstory and everything in the final few. But just with this opener, it does shove a lot in your face of this crazy new world. But I do think there's enough going into the show. You know what a griffin is, for example. So when you have the joke at the beginning of building an anatomically correct taxidermy griffin with a dead pigeon's head, and then you go to the world and they actually look like that. They just have massive pigeons for the front half of their bodies. So I think that all works.
I also wanted to sit down with Luce and be like, what do you think a griffin is? Why do you think it has pigeon head? Why do you think it barfs spider? And the biggest thing, like, here's the thing, and this is kind of something, like, I'm a big advocate for live your life no matter what. Your personality is beautiful, so you need to show it off. And weirdly enough, the show kind of had me double back on that for a minute, because, like, while I agree, like, oh, we shouldn't force this girl to, like, change her behavior or anything, the girl was throwing snakes at people. She was throwing snakes. To be fair,
those were backup snakes. They escaped by themselves.
I'm just saying, when I was who takes that many snakes anywhere.
Where did she find the snakes?
I don't
As
know.
someone who is terrified of snakes, if someone threw a snake at me, I would be like, get rid of them. I don't care how. Get rid of them.
Snakes.
And
Why did it have to be?
I do wonder.
Very dangerous. You shall go first.
I just wonder if there's going to be a moment in the show, like right now it seems to be like the whole I'm running away from my problems thing. I do wonder if there's going to be a moment in the show where Luce does kind of confront some of those tendencies and doesn't change her whole personality or anything, but maybe dials it back a little to where she isn't actively hurting people with animals.
Well, that at the very least would be a good start. But that's one of my main critiques from, at least from what I've seen so far, and from what I hear about the rest of the show. Luce seems to be. I mean, I know she's a very strange person anyway, but she seems very.
In the first episode. But I like editing anime clips to music and reading fantasy books with convoluted backstories. Can we not all relate to this?
I relate hardcore to Luce. I get it. But as someone who can relate to Luce, I understand that even I have to have limits, or else I will destroy the world.
Yeah, there's that.
Again, character development over the length of the show. We are just covering the first three.
Yeah. But Luce, especially from what I hear from the rest of the series, Luce seems to be a very irresponsible girl, and unfortunately, she's entering a world that could most likely encourage said irresponsibleness. See, with Gravity Falls, I feel like when I reflect on it, actually, it kind of had this right balance between escapism and reality. Like, when you look at Gravity Falls as a character in itself, this is right up Dipper's alley with conspiracy, secrets, and all that sort of thing, and up Mabel Street to an extent with like the wonder, the fun, and stuff like that. But there comes a point where Dipper and Mabel, and it ties into the overall message of the show, they have to learn to grow up because summer's not going to last forever. So they have to be mature. Like Dipper loves to delve into secrets, but he has to learn to mature socially. Mabel is a social butterfly, but she has to learn to take responsibilities, and that's seen throughout the show. And you see glimpses of that at the end of each episode. Even if it was kind of forced, you still get the message, and that's why I say stories like Gravity Falls have better moral messages than what's presented with Owl House. Because with Owl House, it seems like as well intended as some of these characters are, I think they're just gonna encourage her sense of irresponsibleness. And he established in the first place, she had to grow up a bit. Not that she can't, keep having fun or anything, or be weird. I mean, I'm a weirdo myself, so who am I to speak?
Here's the thing. I agree with you to a point, but once again, like I brought up, that when she gets to this world, she's kind of the normal one, and I think that's an interesting dynamic. But also, she does save those people from the jail, she is taking responsibility. I think you're right in a sense where it's like, oh, she's running away from the problem. She's not accepting that, but we got to remember this is episode 1. This is the setup. And also, I think she absolutely takes responsibility in the first episode. Now, when we get to the second episode, I think you'll have a little bit more of an argument to it. But here, I think that Luce sees people in trouble who the Owl Lady was totally okay with ditching, and Luce lets them all out. What was that, Jack?
Yeah, I think there's a moment in this show where Ida says in this episode 1 is, "Oh, good, the warden's off torturing some poor helpless creature. Now's our chance."
Yeah,
I disagree with this. We need to be helping.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think Luce is kind of the hero here, honestly. she's kind of the conscience. Like, if it weren't for her, the fan fiction vampire and the eye guy, and my favorite one being the conspiracy egg, they would have been stuck. But they got to like face their problems head on because Luce encouraged them. And I wouldn't be surprised if later on Luce has to face her problems as well.
Full disclosure, by the end of the first season, Luce has developed. We have addressed some of these things of the idea that, yes, she was very much running away from her issues and stuff. But it's not been fully concluded. And the idea that I hadn't considered this until we were talking about it just now, that, yeah, this world is perhaps a bit more geared towards indulging these fantasies rather than growing from them.
Yeah.
But I've just had the thought, I wonder if this show will go a cat in the hat direction in terms of the book, where it's like, oh yes, having fun, all this is great, in moderation. I think Lou's actually said they're becoming a little bit more of, though I do slightly disagree with this, a bit more of the straight man, means that we will get the Lou sees the craziness and is realizing, okay, this is too far, this is where you need to draw the line.
What I think is that this show is probably going to teach a lesson of balance, where it's like, no, be you, be your personality, don't change for anybody. But you also got to know, like, when in certain social situations, you shouldn't do certain things. Like
peeling your eyelids up.
I don't think that one was necessarily overstepping either, but, like, I think that Luce needs to, like, learn that, like, for lack of a better term, like, we're all trying to figure things out, Luce, and, like, you know, you can't throw snakes at people. you gotta, especially, like, keep some things in check. And if they do go that route, well done to them, because I don't think I've encountered a story where it's like, no, be you, just, you know, don't actively, like, don't go too far and, like, hurt people along the way. Like, and I kind of detected that they might be doing that with a character in the third episode as well, like, sort of preaching a similar story so Luce can see herself in this character. But again, we'll get to that.
Other things from the first episode, you guys have not yet mentioned one of the key players, the namesake of the show, the Owl House, Hootie, also voiced by Alex Hirsch.
I have something to say about Hootie. Okay, I don't know if this was a reference to what I'm thinking it was a reference to, but I couldn't help but notice Hootie is like this owl who isn't super helpful to the plot. He seems like sort of done with what everybody is doing, and he's like, you know, he's giving riddles that no one wants to solve, and then he's like, okay, sheesh. I remember another owl like this. I used to play the King's Quest games back in the day, and there was this owl named Cedric in King's Quest V. And before I say anything else, I just want to say, fuck that owl. Because he was the most annoying dude. He never helped. Anytime you went into a dangerous area, he waited outside. And he would always be like, ooh, I can give you a hint, but it's not going to be helpful. He sounds exactly like Hootie. And I have to admit, there was this sort of, like, how do I even phrase this? Joy, I guess? Whenever I saw the characters abuse Hootie, because I was, like, living the fantasy of watching Cedric just be tortured.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's a reference at all. This is probably a huge sidetrack for what the story is.
I mean,
but thank you, Owl House.
it might well be to a certain extent. I mean, there are a few references to other pop culture throughout this episode. I think in amongst Ida's stuff she's selling at the start, she has a Munchlax plushie.
Oh, I saw the Munchlax.
A legally safe, you know, slightly tweaked knockoff version. What were the other ones? It's not, they don't have the opening theme in episode 1, but it's in the rest of the show, and they do. It's one of those ones where they change it slightly as the show goes on. They have, for the nerds, a plushie. There's a shot of King atop a mountain of his minions, stuffed animals. One of them is the first angel from Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's like, yeah, the massive, an actual demon, you could say. And it's like, yeah, just a plushie that's on screen very briefly. They reference fidget spinners in a later episode, acknowledging what a stupid passing fad that was. There's a lot of good self-aware and meta humor and references throughout this show. It's good fun. There's some stuff in episode 2 as well we can talk about with that.
I would love to talk to Alex Hirsch about it because the voice is almost exactly the same. But with the Owl House itself, I liked how it looked. I don't think they showed it a ton in these first 3 episodes. Like episode 4 fully takes place at the Owl House. So I think that's the one where it's like, oh, let's start building this thing. But with these couple of episodes, I liked how it looked. It looked really neat. I like that Hootie has the ability to point people in directions using the fucking weather spoke.
Yeah, Hootie is the house demon. The whole house is alive, and it is Hootie. He is the defense system, the security system.
When he stretches out, like in episode 2, he is literally stretching out into the bathroom window, and I was like, dude, your neck. This is scary. You're scary.
Well, if you enjoy the Hootie abuse, continue watching. There's plenty more where that comes from.
Oh, trust me, I will. Half the reason is just so I can be like, fuck you, Cedric. I mean, Hootie. But I love the Owl House. I think my favorite character in the show, though, is King. Once again, he's voiced by Alex Hirsch, and usually you get these jokes where it's like, I'm not cute. He accepts he's cute so quickly. And he is just the quirkiest dude. When he picks up the plushie and he's like, you are my minion. I will call you Francois.
And Francois is a recurring minion. He shows up again later in the show.
I am very happy about this. I was hoping Francois would return.
An integral plot point, as it turns out.
I just love King. Every time he's like, oh, can I cuddle up to you on your slumber cocoon? He's just cute and adorable, and he's also very funny. I think I'll talk more about her in the second episode, but honestly, from these first 3 episodes, the character where I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling you, was the Owl Lady. And what's weird is in this episode, she's completely different. Like in the other 2 episodes, she's very docile and trying to push everything off. Like she's like, yeah, we can do magic a different day. But here she's like, oh, my fucking friend wants this crown. Yeah, I'm going to do everything in my power to go get this crown because he's my buddy and I want to help him out. And she's pushing the plot forward. It makes sense to me why these 2 are friends. And then in the other 2 episodes, she is literally like, okay, Liz, you'll learn magic eventually. Not today. Fuck off.
Is that joke in the start of episode 2? I've not had my apple blood yet. It's early in the morning. I can't deal with this yet. We'll get it later.
I love the apple blood thing. I will always find it funny.
Apple juice? No.
I will always find it funny when you have one thing and you call it another. They do jokes like that and other things. Like, I believe there's a meta joke where, in Adventure Time, everyone's afraid that Marceline is going to suck their blood. And she's like, no, we just eat the color red. It's fine. I just love shit like that.
Yeah. Later in Adventure Time, she goes to the fridge and just bites into an apple and drains the color red from it.
Callum, considering you really like Gravity Falls, and of course Jack does too, but how did you feel about Alex Hirsch here? Specifically, the character of King. Were you laughing? Were you annoyed? What was going on here?
Don't think I was in too much hysterics here, although the Hootie, the voice of Hootie I thought was really funny, actually. In fact, Hootie reminds me of your impression of Mickey Mouse for some reason.
Oh, my evil one where he tries to take over the world and kill people?
Yeah.
So the real one.
Yeah. I mean, there is like a real Mickey Mouse voice where it's like, oh boy. And then there's a Mickey Mouse voice where it's like, you fuckers are gonna fucking die! How dare you fucking steal my money! I don't care if everything was closed in 2021. I need movie theaters! I just like the idea that Mickey is secretly one step from like a breakdown and will kill everyone.
I am now wondering if the Hootie voice is just Alex Hirsch's impression of Mickey Mouse.
It very well could be. I got my fingers crossed for Cedric because, it's a fantasy owl, but who knows? Who fucking knows? But yeah, with this episode, any final thoughts before we go into our ratings? Let's start with you, Jack.
Only last thing I wanted to bring up, aside from other little jokes and stuff, I'd take a note of, giraffes are from this fantasy world, and they got banished to ours because they're freaks.
I don't trust giraffes. I never have.
There's something off about them. But the last thing I had here is, and it's a nice little thing that I didn't notice until this rewatch, is Luz's Good Witch Azura book, the novel series. It's like, oh, this is what witches are like, yeah. And you have that opening scene of fighting the snake. Eat this, sucker! Just use the staff as a bazooka, which then we get harkened back to later. Is that the main character on the cover looks a bit like Luz, and then also on the cover there's a little black dog and a elderly witch in a red cloak. Okay, so this story parallels the story that the show tells us as it goes. And there are references made, things happen in that book that's then, this is how that pays off here. The big thing was Warden Wrath as an antagonist this episode. The episode's fun, but once we get into the Conformatorium and we go up to get King's Crown and everything, that's when this episode takes a big jump up in quality for me. Because that joke of, you're given King's backstory, it's this tapestry sort of depiction of events, and it's like, oh no, it's this little paper thing, and it's like, he likes it, so we came to get it. And then Warden Wrath is like, after all these years, we've been hunting you down. Will you go out on a date with me? Turns to his henchman and like, you got it, boss.
I found that so weird. Something else I want to bring up now, just another funny joke, is when the henchman is like, you can't run, or he says something like that, and he's just like, wait, yeah, she can. All right, she got away. All right, well, and then he leaves. I just love the idea of him just like, well, fuck. Yeah, I lost her. It sucks. Well, yeah, what are you going to do? And just goes and lives the rest of his life. But yeah, I liked this guy. I assume he'll come back in later episodes. I did find it a little, I was trying to understand his mindset, because he was like, he's very anti-weird, but he wants to date the owl lady, who's like the weirdest one.
She's the one who always got away,
I mean, fair enough. I liked this guy. I also liked that he's literally just tentacles and a mouth with eyes. I love his whole design. I like a lot of the designs in the show. Again, some feel like they're trying a little too hard, but for the most part, I was really into everything at the reformatory. So I'm with you right there.
Did you guys find it at all jarring, or did you enjoy it when we suddenly increase the frame rate and get these crazier action shots where Raph just sort of rips through his gloves to have the big tentacle arms and starts crawling through the building with them, and the fight at the end? Because this show, unique to a lot of Disney shows, has a lot more in-house animation done rather than outsourcing it to another company in another country and everything. A lot of it is done by the staff, so you get these beautiful shots and fight scenes throughout this show. When they put in the effort, it's like top tier anime quality from this little fun Disney show.
Yeah, I did, like, I was trying to, like, really analyze that scene where the tentacles come out, and there were a couple scenes in that where I was like, oh, his face kind of got smushed a little. That's a little weird. But that is a nitpick in the most nittiest and pickiest of ways. Like, this dude turning into that creature and just chasing them down. It was great. It was great fun. And I do have one more question about logic. How is it that when Luce put the witch's hand on her hand, she was suddenly able to open the doors when, like, there is no arm to provide strength there?
I think it was Ida's arm as well, because Ida was on the broom behind. Luz was just holding the heads with the other hand. So I think it was both of them just doing it together.
I sort of attributed it to, like, she's magic.
Yeah.
But,
which is a fun thing they get into later, that witches are literally have an organ in their body that produces magic.
Yes, that is in episode 4. I remember that. It is gross looking. It's like a black sack next to your heart.
No, I really enjoyed episode 1. I think it's a really strong opener. And again, it doesn't play the intro, so it has more time to deliver this story and tell what it wants to tell. Get you into this world. This is the craziness that's going to happen throughout this series. You have been somewhat prepared for it.
Oh yeah, it definitely feels like that. We got to entertain people. We got to show off everything. That way they stick around. I liked it. I thought it was a good start. What is your rating, my friend?
I think out of 10. Having seen the entire show, my view is skewed slightly more positively. So I think, though, I'd give this episode an 8. I think this is an 8 for me. It's a lot of fun. Again, the setup of these great jokes of, we need to go. It's a Burger King crown. It's the villain has been hunting them down because he wants to go on a date. I love this sort of humor. It's great because you have these notions of, we're in a magical fantasy world. At the start, when Luz first looks out over the cliffs of the Boiling Isles, and a fairy floats by, he's like, a fairy! And it opens its mouth wide, give me your skin! I love this show.
If I were a kid and I would have saw that would have scared the hell out of me as a kid. I also love when they're looking at the TV and there's a monster that goes, "Can I eat the tiny man inside of it?" But yeah, I'm with you. I like this show a lot. Obviously, I stuck with it. I did find a couple, like, nitpicky faults here and there, but, like, I like this show. I thought it was pretty good. You know, I think it's hand in hand with some of the other stuff, like Amphibia and Star versus the Forces of Evil. Just based on this first episode, I don't know if I would have, like, I don't know if this is the episode that would have won me over, but I liked it a lot. So I would say 7. It's definitely more than above average, which is a 6 for me. So, like, I had fun. I enjoyed it. I wasn't bored. I got into the character of Luce. I love that she's, like, her design is different from the normal cartoon girls we see. Like, she has short hair. You know, she isn't just generic person. I loved, like, that she had earrings. It was cool to, like, see like, different styles like that, because unfortunately we don't get that a ton. Like, just looking at Disney, like, Mabel is a character with long hair, wears sweaters, sort of girl. And even though Mabel is amazing, Like, her character is much more than just girl. Her design is kind of just girl, except for the sweater vest. Star versus the forces of evil. She's got the long hair, girl. It feels like here we got short hair, where some people would be like, oh, this is a new look. This is a different look, and I like it. So, yep, 8 out of 10. No, 7 out of 10, my bad. You said 8 out of 10. Callum, what are your final thoughts and ratings?
From what I've seen of these 3 episodes, what I've heard of the show, I'm afraid I'm going to be more critical of the...
Just episode 1.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like... I would have carried on like what I heard of the rest of the show, but yeah, this is just a casual viewer notifying. Sorry. First episode, gotta be more critical. Like, this didn't quite grab me the way that Gravity Falls did. I mean, it's hard to grab you quite right. I think the environment was a bit bombarding compared to Gravity Falls, which had a bit more of a build-up as well as a bit more of a conclusion in it and of itself, in a sense, as well as Gravity Falls had a hook to it as well. And there's other things I will compare it to later. I was literally watching like the first few episodes of Amphibia just to compare. I think some of the environment and jokes in Amphibia do land better for me for reasons I'll explain later. So I will say this does have some effort put into it. It looks great. And as you said before, the character design is quite creative. So whatever your thoughts are, there's no denying that there was effort put into this.
Oh yeah, just want to say that the animation is great. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, there's even parts where like intro and other parts where I swear they added a few extra frames. There's another one little scene which I'll mention when in the next episode that I thought, whoa, that's smooth. Like me and Jack are animators, right? So we know smooth animation when we see it. Like, it's kind of like if Neil looks at woman, me and Jack look at smooth animation the way Neil will probably look at women. Something like
How
that.
dare you? There's only one person I look at suggestively, and that's Hawkeye.
But first impressions are a bit tough too, so you gotta leave a lot for the imagination, and a part of me is still a bit. Lou is meant to learn how to be more responsible, and she seems like she's in the exact environment that, again, I know only the first few episodes, I know, but no, thinking about the rest of the show, it seems like she's in the perfect environment to be as irresponsible as she likes. Albeit, she's going to be learning, from the witch and meet a few things, learn not to get into trouble.
That might kind of be the point, though, Cal. Maybe she's supposed to, like, be in this environment where it's like, yeah, for a little bit I can be, like, running away from my problems and, like, throw myself into this world. And then later she overcomes that.
Alright, so I suppose first impressions can be done, but for the time being, I think I'm going to give this first episode, again, first impressions, a 6 out of 10.
Alright, so just a little above average.
Aye.
I feel that. I was also kind of teetering between a 6 and a 7, but, like, there were too many funny jokes for me to not go a little beyond. But with that, let's jump into episode 2.
Yes.
Yes,
Witches Before Wizards was the title of this one.
Well, this episode synopsis is pretty quick. Luce is so excited to become a witch, but literally during the night, it seems that the Owl Lady has forgotten who she is. So she goes on this package delivery thing with King. She's frustrated. She wants to go on quests and learn magic, and a wizard seems to offer her that opportunity. She goes on a quest with this wizard, but not everything is as it seems. Turns out that wizard is a demon, and Ida the Owl Lady and King have to go try to save her. How did we feel about this one right off the bat? What did you guys think of this one? Let's start with Callum this time.
I think this was a slightly better episode than the first one. I think it wasn't quite as bombarding as the first one, but then again, the first one did throw you right into the fray of the way it was take place. But I think other shows have done this sort of thing. The first episode alone have done better, but that's besides the point. The point is, this second episode is where Lucius is excited for her first adventure, but it's not quite what it seems. So she tries to go on one herself, and it seems very promising at first, but I think a lot of people would appreciate the subversion of the chosen one trope. That's so often seen in these epic, like, fictional stories. Like, you specifically are the chosen one. Yes, you, the protagonist who doesn't have many special powers. You specifically. They have a little twist where the chosen one is literally just this trap to get any suspect to go on this trail and then just take the bait for like a snack or consuming or something like that. So nice little twist there, and a nice build up too. Like, hang on, wait a minute, something's not right here. I also I like there was some funny jokes involving the exaggerated characters he encounters. The man who has to show off his abs, to, like, ripping off his clothes to provide a cape for her to get her to fancy him. The cat, the citizens, and all that. That's quite exaggerated, so that can be quite funny at times. The animation can be surprisingly smooth. Well, not all of it. Some of it's just, typical TV budget. So some of it's static and cheap, especially nowadays. They have a more simplistic design, but sometimes a few scenes where they could go a little bit smoother than usual. There's this one scene where she's celebrating to get to the bridge, and she does this motion where she does like a skip, and then she sort of twirls around and goes like, and it's from a sort of a bird's eye view. I thought, wow, that's so smooth. I actually had to go back 10 seconds just to see, is that what I saw? That was some smooth animation. The way they did that motion. If you saw it too, right, Jack?
Oh, I've rewatched the show a lot. Yes.
I think, like, I agree with you. It looks great. I loved the shirtless guy. I especially love that when he dies, he just yells, "My pecs!"
My perfect pecs!
Stabbed by a plastic He-Man / Thundercats talking toy sword.
So many questions about that plastic sword. That is a lethal plastic sword. Who would sell something that lethal?
Bro, we're in the boiling aisles. Everything's a weapon. Francois could be a weapon.
Yeah, but that sword is a plastic toy from the human world. Think about it.
Magic.
Neil, think about it. That sword was from our world.
I, as a kid, used to buy plastic swords.
I still
and
buy
I'm telling you, right now, sir, I owned a few that could cut people. And did cut people.
Okay.
Like, okay, look, it wasn't like I gashed people to death. It was like, sometimes when you buy the sword, it's a little too sharp. And, it happens. When you're trying to replicate a sword, sometimes you replicate a sword. It doesn't matter sometimes that's plastic. Also, that monster looked particularly gooey. Maybe he was delicate. I don't know. But I think that pattern I mentioned earlier kind of comes into fruition here. Like, I think this is the first show where I noticed it so vividly. It's in Star versus the Forces of Evil. It's in Amphibia. It's even kind of in Gravity Falls, where the first episode is, wow, the world, look how weird this can get. Look at the standard that we are going to show you. And then the second episode is the main character's rude awakening, where it's like, yeah, no, the world's great. Just chill. You're not getting like the big journey here where we're going slow. It's a TV show. Calm the fuck down. And that was literally the plot of this episode, where it was like, I'm going on a quest. No, it's a TV show, Luce. This is the second episode. You're not doing shit. This is a side quest. You're going on a side quest. I think this is I'm having trouble to think of specific quotes from King, but he was great in this. I remember laughing a ton. I especially like the line where he's like, I'm not your sweetie pie. And then Luce is like, yes, you are. And then later King just goes, I know. He just accepts it like, I know what this is. I'm not proud of it, but I know. I enjoyed that they sort of did an episode where it was like, oh, the world's not about you, which is, I think, a lesson that Luce may have to learn a little bit, where it's like, no, you're not the chosen one. You're not on this big quest. You're a member of the world. You're no more important than anyone else. You're here. You're okay. You're fine. You're going to learn this stuff. Just take your time. However, this is the episode where the Ida started to bother me a little. Because, first of all, she completely either pretends or just does forget who Luce is. And then she's like really neglecting her. Like, oh yeah, I'll teach you some other day. Go like deliver these packages. Like, it almost feels like she's intentionally trying to belittle Luce with stuff like, oh no, you're an errand boy first, and then later you can like learn magic with me. But that's coming way later. And that carries into the next episode too, where she just does not seem to give a single fuck. And it really started to annoy me, where I was like, if you were with her during the deliveries, she never would have fallen for that wizard. If you would have just taught her magic, or at least told her a time and day when you were going to do it, Luce never would have like fallen for this stuff. And again, maybe they're setting up that like later the owl lady will learn from this and be more attentive and caring. But it did kind of bug me. Like, it got to the point where I was like, dude, you're apprentice. This person you have chosen to take care of is going to get eaten by a demon. There were so many ways you could have prevented this, and you did not. The hell.
Fair. Again, Ida does change over the course of the story, but in this episode, perfectly fair critique, yeah.
And again, I don't like to critique character flaws, because, like, you know, character flaws are part of the story. You need to see those change with time. That's how we get interesting characters. Like, the entirety of, I guess this is a good example. Captain America Civil War. Captain America and Iron Man are two characters on different sides that we have followed this whole time, to the point where you can identify with either's sort of standpoint. Cap doesn't think that like there should be control over the Avengers. Iron Man thinks you got to be put in check, or else we are the bad guys. So with that, you kind of get it, where it's like these characters have been built up, their flaws have been exposed, they've been dealt with, and we get why they're here. Here, maybe it's because the show is still getting on its feet, but when she is actively like, who are you? I was like, okay, that's funny, but like, that girl helped you save a ton of people yesterday, and I feel like there would be an impression. She's so excited, and you're breaking her heart here, lady. Come on now. But yeah, again, I know that was kind of a critical thing. I actually personally believe I didn't like this episode as much as the first one. That being said, I still liked it. It was cool. It was creative, and I do like the message of, you're not the chosen one. Don't make the whole world about you.
Is this the one where it ends up...
What was that?
Is this the one where it ends with them flying off to see like this giant carcass and, as they're flying
Yeah.
off?
Yes.
As of them looking out over the boiling isles, yeah.
The
Right.
beauty
yes.
of a dead thing.
Which
Which I
is
kinda
the
like.
whole boiling isles. The setting of the show is the rotting corpse of this giant. That is the ground we are walking on.
Right.
Which is
I,
good.
I've always
It sets up.
liked that.
This is the location you see in this episode from the position it's lying. Like it's got its knee sort of sticking up, and that's a snowy mountain that we visit later. But they take advantage of this idea of it being a corpse. And yeah, I agree that yes,
sorry.
Ida is not the best caretaker in this episode. But again, that is a part of the arc that Ida undergoes, even just over these next few. I really like about this episode, what I really like is the picking apart again of the chosen one idea, and it's they're going out handing out these potions and seeing the craziness in town when Luz sees a centaur and goes over to try and sell him a potion. And my eyes are down here. Just as the face is on the torso, and it's just a blank head.
He had eyes where his nipples should be. That is monstrous. That scared me. Nip eyes.
Yes. But it goes and does that and finds then this beautiful looking magical castle and Adagast the wizard.
Yo, original!
Which that's a memorable line from King this episode. Wizards are just old people with glitter in their pockets. Gives her the map to the magical staff and everything. And this goes a bit more for Luz as well in the story here. It's when they go back to Ida, and Ida's like, this doesn't exist. No, there's no such thing as a chosen one. She could have let Luz down a little easier than that, which then results in her going, oh, only the chosen one can see this. I'm the chosen one. Yeah. Which leads to then, at the end of the episode, we get that they'll sit down on the broom, well, the staff, from Ida. Everyone wants to think they're the chosen one, but if we all sat around waiting for someone else to say that we're special, we'd die waiting. I think that's a good moral for this episode is, yes, everyone's unique, everyone is special, but not more so than anyone else.
Oh, I totally agree with you, and you're right. They could do better on this in later episodes, but I'm also like, I'm trying to review this from the same standpoint we did Winter Soldier and Falcon, where it was like we're watching each episode as it comes, and we're judging it as its own entity. Just based on its own entity, she sucks.
Yeah.
Like, just based on nothing else but this episode, I think there were so many better ways to handle this, where she like laughs at her, and I get that she's supposed to be like quirky and look, this character is funny. She's just treating a kid. Like Luz is like what, 14, 15? This owl lady is like super old, and she's just laughing at this kid who's like new to a brand new world and is trying to understand it. I didn't love it. I did not love how she acted.
That's one of the other reasons why I think the morals are somewhat mixed. Yeah, I mean, I get that don't see yourself as the center of the universe. Like, humble yourself. Even the way I said it was better than the way she delivered it. I mean, the way she was saying to her on the broom, I felt, I don't know, that's kind of condescending and irresponsible. Like, as you said earlier, like, she is not, like, a good role model. I'm just thinking, okay, you either need to be a little bit more virtuous, so there could be more, I don't know, maybe more of a character growth. I mean, I would probably accept this if this was aimed for an older demographic, but because this is kind of, sort of a children's show market, I think we need her to be more of an admirable role model, or this could be something like a villain show. Like, this could be an amazing show for, like, the origin story of a villain. Like, replace this witch owl lady with Maleficent. You think, oh, cool, this could be like Maleficent's apprentice. That would be so cool.
Now, you see, I kind of disagree with you here because, like, once again, I don't like to punish a show for character faults because, like, obviously later on the show is going to overcome it. I just think in this episode she overstepped a bit. Like, there were a couple situations where I was like, okay, you're going from sort of neglectful but still charming to lady, be fucking responsible. um, but like I definitely disagree with the whole like the moral is wrong. Like I do like the moral of
I didn't say it was wrong. I've just said it was could have been delivered better.
oh yeah I do kind of like how she was like, oh well, if you're always waiting for someone to give you destiny, like you'll wait forever. No one else is going to give you your chance. You had to go find it, and I like that. I like this episode's moral. I do. I'll just go into my final thoughts here. I think this episode for me was not as good as the first one. It was still very funny though, and I do happen to know because I did watch episode 4, and I am about to go further and watch episode 5. I'm actually going to do it today.
Nice.
I do know that the Owl Lady gets a bit better and a bit like it almost feels like she has walls up. Like it feels like she's like defending herself from getting hurt and connecting to people to the point where Luce sort of has to break those down. And in episode 4, she does concede and she starts teaching Luce a little bit of magic. She does it extremely under protest, but it's a little bit of magic. And in this episode, I wish she would have just been like a little more attentive. I don't necessarily even dislike that she seems to be kind of a bad role model. It just feels like in this situation, there were a million other paths they could have took that still would have been in her character. And they took the path where it was like, this makes her the shittiest. And maybe that was intentional. Maybe that will pay off later. But judging this episode just based on its own merits, she held it back a lot for me. And, you know, while I did love seeing the really cool lands like the Kitty Village, which was fake, and the forest, which was also fake, and the cool castle, I did like I kind of knew it was all fake. I will say this: when that cat disintegrated into dust or whatever, that was a lot of gore.
Like you were right there with King. He melted.
Oh yeah. I do like this episode. Like I want to make that clear. Even though I'm going 6, I want it to be known this is a strong 6. This could have been a 7, but for me, it still wasn't average, and it definitely wasn't bad. But it was just kind of above average. It was pretty okay. It was good. I liked it. If I would have seen this like alone, not based on the other stories, if you combine these episodes into one, you can kind of see where they're going with it, and it's cool. But just based like, if I just would have watched this episode, I would have been like, looks cool, I guess, and probably would have given it like not another thought. But that being said, I did like it. I thought there were cool ideas. I liked the Adagast reference because that's even as someone who
that's an obvious reference to Radagast the Brown from Lord of the Rings.
I know, I got the reference. Even though like I'm not super into Lord of the Rings, I know about Adagast the Brown.
As was mentioned last episode, Luz likes fantasy novels with convoluted backstories. Of course, there has to be some Tolkien in there.
I mean, I'm a little Lord of the Ringsy. Like I know the movies, I know The Hobbit, and I know a little bit of the books. I know who Tom Bombadil is, so that's something. But yeah, I'm giving it a 6. It's a strong 6. Could have been further, but I'm not giving it a 6.5. I'm staying at 6, and Yeah, I like this episode. I do believe the third one we saw was the best one. So I'm kind of excited to get into that episode. But yeah, with this one, six. Six all the way. What do you think, Alan?
I know what he's having. Six.
All right.
You're giving this one a 6 too? I thought you said it was better than the first one.
Yeah, but upon further reflection, I think 6 is gonna be
You're
That's
copying
appropriate.
my number.
It's better, but not better by a margin of 0.5.
pretty much.
Fair.
Well, how about
I
you,
think-
Jack? How do you feel?
I do agree. I think I do really like Luz's quest here, encountering your handsome Legolas adventurer type character, and then your sort of gurgy, cute wee animal sidekick character, and doing these basic, typical fantasy tropes. I like that we go, yay! This is all BS in episode 2. I like that we get all that out of the way now. For the show to do more of its own thing down the line. Though it does, of course, continue to riff on other fantasy works and worlds. A little fun thing, I double-checked who it was, and I was surprised how well this ties into previous Disney+ Pals videos over the past few weeks. The voice of the puppeteer demon is Baron Zemo in Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Nice.
He is General Syndulla, Hera's dad in the Filoni Clone Wars. Not the same Clone Wars, but Clone Wars, Star Wars. And he was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He's like a news reporter just on screen, very briefly. Thought that was funny that this guy's been in all these previous things we've covered.
Wait, really? He was in the. That's cool. They got the voice actor who played Zemo to be in the friggin' show
Yep.
where Zemo gets to wear his mask for the first time. That's cool. I love shit like that. I hope they get the dude who played Hawkeye in Earth's Mightiest Heroes to have a cameo because that guy is so good.
That'd be fun.
But what is your number, good
yes.
sir?
My number, my rating. I think I am also going to step down. I think I give this episode a 7. I really enjoy it. Again, and I still like Ida in this episode. I think, and I'm going to bring this up because I'd like us to have we talk about this before we get into the next episode. Ida is a slightly more jaded Grunkle Stan, I feel. She fills that role in the story of we need a quote-unquote responsible parental figure in the story. We need a guardian, but also not one who's going to be a buzzkill and bring down the character so we can still have our adventures. You have Stan pulling the coffin out of the hearse in episode 3, and Dipper Mabel's like, oh yeah, we're going into town to investigate the murderer. We have an axe! Sounds like the sort of thing a responsible parent wouldn't want you doing. Good thing I'm an uncle! Ida is a more jaded Stan, and is canonical to Gravity Falls. Ida is in one of the books, briefly. They're in the same multiverse, in the same way Rick and Morty and all these other things are. Ida has a wanted poster in the Lost Legends book. They go to a little magical wares underground market, similar to on the Boiling Isles, and there's a wanted poster for Ida on the wall. Well, interconnecting these worlds and shows.
Love to see a crossover between the two. It'd be cool to see Dipper and Mabel come back.
I know Calum's looking for it, so I'll double check what page it's on. Page 19 or something, I think. There's a 2-page spread when they get to the night market.
Night market. Right. The one where it's like unforgettable deals and
Yep.
like that.
Well, while
Souls
you
for
guys,
sale, bootleg legs.
There she is.
Yeah.
while you guys are looking for that, I'll share my thoughts a little bit on what you just said, Jack.
The stand comparison.
I'm right there with you. I feel like there is a Grunkle Stan comparison. I think the only reason where I'm kind of like, maybe this character is a bit, can't believe I'm about to say this, worse than Grunkle Stan in terms of being a
Somehow.
parent is usually when Stan says stuff like that, it's played for laughs. And also, like, you know, there are times where Grunkle Stan is kind of the antagonist of an episode where it's like, oh, we got to prove to Uncle Stan that we're cool or whatever. And I do think that, like, even though he's, like, definitely got the same thing going where it's like, oh, at times he can be straight up neglectful. I think that with Ida, there's inconsistency where Stan kind of has consistency. Like, for the record, with Uncle Stan, he's like, oh, well, I got to watch these kids. It's weird, and we're all going to adjust to it, but damn, this is weird. Meanwhile, with Ida, she has so many moments where it's like, oh, no, I'm going to teach you magic eventually. And then in the next episode, she's like, I don't want to. I just want to search this trash slug. Leave me alone. Like, it honestly kind of feels like she's, like, kind of bipolar about the whole situation, where it's like, yeah, I'll be your teacher. Why would I be your teacher? I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah,
But yeah, I agree
we'll
with
get
you.
into that in episode 3.
There's room to develop this character. But you gave it a 7, correct?
I gave it 7. That's us.
Okay, so if we
episode.
add it up, Callum and I both gave 6s.
12.
So that's a 19 out of 30. That's still pretty good, honestly.
And the previous episode would have been 6, 7, 8. So 12, 13, 20. That's a slightly worse. Slight step down.
Well, if it means anything, I'm going higher with this episode, because episode 3, brief synopsis, Luz
I was a
kinda
teenage
gets,
abomination.
Luz kind of gets fed up with Ida. She ditches her. She learns of this school, which, by the way, Ida is very anti-school in general. I feel like that's appealing to the kid crowd. But Luz finds this girl who's, like, working for the school. She has, like, a science project that another girl kind of sabotages. And, you know, they make friends, and Luz gets to dress up as her science project, which is creating an abomination, which is kind of an unseen servant, but you can see it. For my D&D people out there, it's kind of a golem. She goes to the school. She has a great time. The bully kid is like, oh, there's something up with you. And the whole episode is just enjoying this school until the end, where the truth is revealed. They want to dissect Luz. And this girl uses her true power, which is plant magic, and she gets put in the upper class. Meanwhile, King is trying to turn a maggot into his minion, and it grows up to be a huge worm that tries to kill him. I do think these two subplots, like, I was expecting them to come together. Like, I was expecting at the end, the reason that the elf was going... She is an elf, right?
It's just sort of witches in general is the human equivalent on the Boiling Isles.
Yeah, I'm noticing
witches is men and women, yeah, just pointy ears. That's just the species, I guess.
Expecting... I can't even remember if this does happen. Does the worm attack the school?
No, the King and Ida's bet is the B story in this. Yeah, they don't intersect at any point.
Yeah, I thought at the end they were going to intersect, where, like, the worm will attack the school and Ida's got to team up with the students to, like, stop this worm. But no, and I feel like, even though I like this episode the best, I guess I'll get the critical part out of the way. I feel like that should have happened. I feel like there should have been a moment where these now two different ways that Luz can learn magic sort of intertwine, and she gets to like see the Owl Lady in action again, maybe be a little more reverent when she chooses her. Because honestly, I got to be real, I would have gone to the magic school. Like, I get that they're trying to dissect her now, but I would have like got some fake pointy ears and tried to go to the freaking magic school with the screaming bell. That was my favorite thing. All of the technology in this world are living beings, so the school bell is just a creature in agony, and I love it.
It's like Willow goes to her locker to get her books and tickles the locker, and it opens its mouth and the tongue unfurls to give you your books.
I adore that. I also like that the only piece of actual technology appears to be Luce's phone. In Amphibia, they kind of play with the idea of like a phone being this valuable tool,
which somehow doesn't run out of battery.
Actually, they do address it in Amphibia. Like they find a toad that like conducts electricity, and she like overcharges her phone. I don't know if they'll address it here, but once again, fucking magic. Someone can like make their hand lightning or something.
The thing to bear in mind with Amphibia, the Owl House, is unlike Amphibia, where it's sent to this magical world and seemingly no way back. Ida can just press this button on the key and the portal opens. That's Ida's business, is just selling stuff that Owlbert, by the way, is the name of the owl on her staff. Just sells whatever Owlbert drags through the portal. So like they had a TV in episode 1. It's just the wares that Ida gets her hands on and has no idea how they actually work.
Yeah, that's another thing. She could literally go back whenever she wants. She probably won't, because if her mom sees her, she could get in trouble. That would be a cool episode, though. I wouldn't be surprised if that is going to be an episode later. But I got to be real. These past couple of episodes, I brought up that it kind of seems like Luce is the straight man, because she kind of has to be, because she's in this world that is so strange. Here, when Willow comes in, I love that Luce gets to be the strange person again. I love that Willow and her new friend are now the ones who is like, oh, we're wizards. We're normal witches and wizards. We've lived our life the way it is, where like a high five is foreign. And all of these like little things she does. Like, I love that she got to be eccentric goofball again. I think that's when she's at her best.
Yes, now that we have sort of peers for Luz, Luz is just as foreign to them as this world is to her, which is great. And it's Willow and Augustus, who Luz nicknames to Gus. And he's freaking out. A human nickname! I have a human nickname!
I loved it. I love that he was just a fan of humanity.
We get into that in a later episode, because he's the head of the Human Appreciation Club at the school. So they're just... like they say in this episode, did you know that humans nail barbed wire to their teeth?
I want him to go to the human world. I want there to be an episode where they just all go to the human world. Is there an episode like that, Jack?
You'll have to wait and see.
A
lot of the things you've said you hope are in future episodes, dealing more with the school, dealing with Luz's mom and stuff. A lot of that is covered in season 1, but a lot of it is to come in season 2. So keep on watching. The stuff you hope happens, a lot of it happens. So.
I mean, I guess that's how you know you got a good show, where you're like, oh, I want to see the characters go through this. I want to see the characters deal with this. Like, I like these characters. I do. I do think like this episode didn't help my opinion on Ida, though. The next episode kind of did a little, where they even explain like maybe there's a reason why she's being so standoffish. Ooh, but
full disclosure: if we weren't sticking to the 3-episode rule, I do advise, and anyone watching this, the first 5 episodes are your grounding for the show that sort of fully establish everything. We're going up to the first 3, and it still gives you a fair bit.
Neil, are you sure you want to do like the strictly 3-episode rule. Because I have known certain shows where they do excellently in the first 5 episodes. Like, I'm thinking of Cowboy Bebop right now. The hooking episode is episode 5.
We gave this show an hour of our time.
Yes. I think 3 is fully justified. But if I'd had my way at the first 5 to fully get people in. But with this episode, again, going to Hexside School of not witchcraft and wizardry, because that's Hogwarts, but, you know, we have to keep it varied enough. We also get introduced in this episode to Amity Blight, to the Draco Malfoy equivalent, to the mean girl bully character, who, may I say, is way more interesting than Draco Malfoy. There's a lot more... She's a lot more fun in this than Draco ever... Well, when Draco was turned into a ferret, he was pretty fun then. But
I was getting...
jumping up on the table, the teachers go, Amity Blight, misbehaving. They're getting demoted and sort of... Amity is a lot of fun in this episode and goes on to be a great comic foil and character down the line in the show as well.
I was getting... just to speak on that, I apologize for interrupting.
Oh, no, yeah, sorry, I was about to move on.
I was getting Pacifica vibes off of her. Like, immediately I noticed that, like, the only time she ever got mad was when it was like, you're lowering my grade? Like, she seemed to, like, really prioritize her studies. And I'm thinking in my head when I see this stuff, okay, wait a minute. Why do you care so much about your studies? And I immediately in my head was like, I wonder if her parents are pressuring her. Like, I wonder if there's like an outside force that is like, you need to do great. You need to be the best, to the point where like she does kind of view herself as better than Willow, because she's like, oh, Willow, you're not doing good. I'm going to bully you. I'm going to pick on you. To the point where it gets to a point where Willow is doing better than her. She's like, how is this possible? I think there's a chance there could be more nuance there, and I'd love to find out maybe why she's being such a bully. That's another thing I like about...
Interesting theory.
That's another thing I like about current media. Bullies don't seem to just be bullies anymore. Like, they're characters too, and you develop them and explain why they're like this.
Yes, a lot of people do complain that the bully is a very tired trait.
I like it. I like the trope of the bully, because when you give the bully episodes where you can develop them, it shows that they're still human. Like, for example, in Power Rangers Season 1, you had Bulk and Skull, where they would steal and they were jerks. And then they have all of these episodes where they slowly like start doing good things. They like the Power Rangers. They admire superheroes. You get all the way to Power Rangers in Space. This would be like, what, like their 6th season of being on the show, to the point where like Earth is ending. The Power Rangers are fighting an impossible battle without an army. The humans need to get involved. Who's leading the charge? Bulk and Skull. They're the ones who said we gotta do this. The characters who were at one point bullies, they're the heroes.
I suppose, to be relevant to Disney+, another excellent example, even like going years back, oddly enough, even before this recent trend to like give them more character, is like Nelson Muntz from The Simpsons. Like, whenever we think of like the cartoon bully character, like Nelson is usually the first that comes to mind, especially with his like infamous always picking on Bart and Milhouse and all the others. But in some episodes, we find out, as it turns out, he's living in a very poor family, and he's having a bit of trouble with some daddy issues. Even having an entire musical sequence, like praying to ask where his daddy is. So, yeah, Nelson is a person too.
Yeah,
I do like. Again, I like your bully character, but I also like when they get a redemption, when you play around with it a bit more. to bring up another example, Buford, who starts off in Phineas and Ferb, oh, the school bully, oh my god, and becomes just one of the main cast.
His
one of the
best
guys.
friend is a nerd.
Mm.
Literally, Baljeet is like his best friend, and Baljeet's one of the nerdiest characters on the show.
No, yes, Amity's a lot of fun, and the last character I want to highlight from the Hexside little story there. We don't see too much of him here, but this was his introduction. Principal Bump, the headmaster of the school.
I have a question for you, Jack.
Yeah.
Is that the main villain?
No.
Okay. Because I noticed he had a
Depends
demon
on your
his
thoughts on teachers, but
I
he's not the primary antagonist or anything.
In this episode, he did seem to like he very quickly was like, let's cut this thing open. And, you know, I do wonder what he would have been like if he like knew Luce was a human, stuff like that. But yeah, I liked this guy's design. I like that he literally has a demon on his head. That is his head, a demon.
It's like eating his head. It's got his mouth around his head. I don't know. I've seen this whole season 1. I have no clue what's going on with that. It just is.
I like the idea that in season 2 there could be an explanation for it, or I think I may even like it better if there just never is. It's just there.
I think someone on the crew of the show like made a comment on Twitter or something. It's like, oh, they like to think that that's just the demon is like the headmaster, that it just like hops on a new person.
It's possessing a body?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I like that idea, but I also like the idea that that's just a theory out there that we never get it confirmed, I hope.
I think I would like if it was like just a hat. Like in my head,
Yeah.
I guess if I came up with a story, I thought maybe he was blind and the creature allowed him to see.
Ah.
But I don't know. Theory. It's just so he can look magical. That's why it's there.
Yeah. There's a few ways they could take it with him. And the one sort of big... It's not addressed much in this episode, but we get into it in then episode 5. The idea of... They're in the Abomination track at school, and at the end Willow gets transferred to the Plant Magic one, and Gus is on the Illusion track, I believe. There's these different avenues, different classes of magic, and Willow wasn't performing particularly well in the one ascribed to her. But then when Bump sees that, oh, Willow excels at this. Okay, move her to this class. Clearly we made a mistake here. The student isn't in the optimum learning environment.
I wonder, and of course this is just me talking about future stuff. I've seen the very next episode and that's it. I wonder if they're going to touch on the fact that like Willow seemed to like go a little dark at the beginning. Like she made a whole bunch of thorny vines that literally grabbed Luce. And I know we needed an excuse for Luce to like join the plot, but it almost looked like she lost control. And I felt like that was an interesting parallel where it's like, oh, Luce kind of oversteps in the real world where she's throwing fucking snakes at people. Maybe
they were backup snakes, Neil. Come on.
They were still snakes. They're living creatures. They're alive. You don't take that to school.
Clearly, you take abominations to school. That's what we learned here.
We're in Wizard World. I just wonder if like there's going to be a point where it's like, oh, she loses control of it. Because once again, I don't think the answer to Luce's situation is, yeah, the world wants you to be different. Be different. I think the situation is, no, you should be yourself. But also, like, you are, like, actively hurting people. You just kind of, like, you got to acknowledge their needs, too. You got to accept the world a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we'll see it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I adore this episode. I just love that King got to be king a lot.
Yeah, where the B plot that we have barely touched upon.
He kept feeding the creature. It got bigger and bigger.
Hopes for it to become minion.
He actually makes her wear the Doug's hat and go into the shed. He's terrified of being called Mr. Wiggles. King is just cute and adorable. He's definitely comic relief, but in the next episode, even he gets a little bit of development. So I think it's neat to consider where this show could go just based on the little bit we saw. What do you think,
I'm glad how much you're loving King, because you think he's cute now. Just King has 2 voice actors in this show, being Alex primarily, and then Dana, the showrunner, does one sound effect for King, and I'm not gonna give it away, but it is known as the squeak of rage.
I'm so ready for this.
Just you wait.
Yeah, like I feel like episode 1 they established the world. Episode 2 they didn't have their footing, but they wanted to tell a neat little story. Here, I think they're figuring it out. Here, I think they got their feet on the ground. They know what the show is. They know what they're trying to do. And with the introduction of Gus and Willow, now Luce has these characters to where she can kind of portray her personality a little bit more. Because I noticed, like, the only character beforehand she could kind of get personal with was King. Because, like, with the Owl Lady, anytime they talk, their dialogue is, I want magic. Magic me. Or, why are you doing this? Why aren't you magicking me? Meanwhile, with King, it has always been like, you're cute.
Yeah,
here she gets to talk to kids. She gets to have friends, and I like that. But what did you think, Callum? Because I remember you had some problems with the first couple of episodes. How was this one for you? Did you like the screaming bell? I love that shit.
Screaming bell.
Also voiced by Alex Hirsch.
Of course. Yeah, that screaming bell was I must have said, was really funny. There was another joke in episode 2 that I overlooked. It was also funny. There's a joke where Luce says, "Hello, strange world." There's this random abomination monster that just says back, "Good morning," and just goes away. I thought that was just funny. Just she says that, and then him of all people just show up just to respond. Like there are some moments where it just catches me off guard. I feel like the humor that catches me off guard was some of the funniest, although some of the other jokes could have landed a bit better. Like in comparison, I found Amphibia to be better mainly because of the expressions. They're like if you even look at the if you go into Disney Plus right now, just go into the the cover image that they usually show to give you a taste of what the show is like. They have these sort of faces that in itself is kind of funny, and these frog people could really funny, just the way that like they got these big balding eyes and the sort of Kermit screams from time to time. I could see this as a puppet show. That's the way their mouths open. Or scenes where
the more stylized and expressive look.
Yeah, it's more stylized and expression. There's a scene where she's the main character's hiding from a monster. Bugs get in her hair. She has this face and I've got a rubbery face to express. It's kind of like the tongue sticking out.
I'm not sure what season you're on, Callum, but if you stick with Amphibia, there may or may not be a reference / cameo to Kermit the Frog.
All right, sweet.
So I think you're right on track with that mindset.
Well, you caught me off guard. This is my hometown before I traveled to the planet Earth to promote the show.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome if Kermit was just from Amphibia. But what did you think about these new human characters? Did you like the bully, the abomination plot? Willow?
Piracy deal. They're not humans.
Luz is the only human.
You know what I mean. These new characters that are also kids. that like friggin' Luce can identify with.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a human fan club. Yeah, that makes sense. And Willow's kind of this cute little dorky kid. I could see Luce just getting on with it. I like how Luce is specifically just acting in like the abomination, and very few people suspect her as being a human at first, but she just acts so weird. She kind of gets away with it. And obviously, there's got to be some friendship-ish magic development to be had here. Although I think it's if there's any moral here, I think it was Willow gets to find her true calling. Which I suppose it's fantastic when you realize that, because sometimes that happens in life. Things happen. We can find our true calling in some aspects or another. So from what I got from these characters so far, I think I could imagine Lou's bouncing off them quite well. Yeah.
I thought the moral of this episode was kind of in tandem with what I had been saying this whole time, where I'm like, oh yeah, don't be afraid to be you, but don't like hurt people with it. Where this episode, like the second that Willow lets down her shyness and like to save Luce, she uses her plant powers. The teacher actually sees that and is like not necessarily mad. He just realizes, oh, there's a lot of talent here, and like she gets her chance. So like her like relying on her personality helped her there. Once again, I hope the lesson of this whole show is sort of balance.
Again,
another.
Sorry.
Well, another sort of moral for this episode, sticking with the idea of in a kids show, so it has to have morals, is picking up on what you were sort of saying about Ida last episode, that teach me magic. No. Whereas here, King points out, if you keep treating her like that, you're gonna lose her. He just, oh, no, my method of teaching is fine, and come on, let's go climb through this garbage slug. So you get the bet between her and King in this episode of King's continue to shower your students with praise. Keep giving it treats. And Ida's more standoffish. We'll get to it when we get to it. Do what I say when I want you to do it. And Ida realizes in this episode, oh no, I did lose Luce. Just run off to the magic school. No, not anything but school.
I would have liked it more. Like, this is why I think these plots should have converged. I noticed that, like, they focus on the B plot and everything kind of ends. There is a point where Luce goes to get Ida, but at that point everything's taken care of. Like, she's trying to go get Ida for help. But, like, there isn't much of a reason here for Luce to be like, oh yeah, Ida. Like, there isn't a great reason to turn back to her, because I understand that Ida is like, oh, well, I should teach you. And in the next episode, she does, but even then, it's under protest. So, like, I don't know if she necessarily did learn a lesson here. I would have liked it if at the very end she was like, tomorrow, hold me to my word, you're learning magic. I think that would have been better. And then she's like, crap, I did agree to that. Okay. Instead, it's just like, no, I'm a good teacher. You'll learn. I don't know. I'm sure she'll get better in season 1, but for these first couple of episodes, I'm like, I don't know if I like your methods, lady.
She is the creepy old witch living in a house in the woods, so not typically your greatest role model.
Also,
yeah, she's got a cute owl door knocker, and she's got a cute dog.
Speaking of voice talents, is it just me, or is that owl lady the same voice as Patcha's wife from Emperor's New Groove?
I believe it is.
I think so. I know she was definitely in the TV show.
She pops up in a lot of stuff. You can hear that character's voice actress in tons of things.
Yeah, she's like live action. She was in like Law and Order and stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
She's been in everything.
She's in Jimmy Neutron. She plays Beautiful Gorgeous. She's in. Sorry, I just realized Jimmy Neutron had a character who was literally named Beautiful Gorgeous.
Yes.
She's in tons of stuff. Like you just like poke around. I believe she was in Rugrats at one point. She's in stuff.
Yeah.
But,
the last sort of thing is the only other note that we've not addressed I've got on this episode, which is just more of the fun, kooky weirdness of this world. That in the school, when Ida's looking in through the windows and the various teachers do their different classes, they're learning their hexable system rather than decimal. When she looks in on like a kindergarten class, there's like, written out on like colored fridge magnets on the wall, "Eat spiders," and the teacher is a spider lady. Don't know what the implications there are for this world.
Well, she needs to. Who better to teach you how scary spiders are than a spider?
A teacher spider as well.
The ultimate spider.
Yeah, it's this really fun world. You were saying you liked the school setting, hope we see a bit more of that. We will, but again, Luz has been banned from campus, and they say at the end, it's like, oh, well, while you're learning Ida's way, Willow and Gus will help sort of learn a bit more of the traditional academic side of things.
Yeah. Also,
on you boys, admit it. You just
I
missed
gotta be
Hogwarts.
real. Yeah, I miss Hogwarts too, but I gotta be real. Friggin' Willow's vine magic when she like takes over the whole school with vines. That's more powerful than anything we've seen from Ida in these first couple episodes.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe, yeah, maybe there is something to the school. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a message where she should have stayed at the school or something. But I'm so excited to see where the show goes. I guess I'll just go into my final thoughts here. I like it. I feel like this episode is the one that grabbed me. I liked episode 1. I liked episode 2 all right. This one I was like, oh, this is cool. Like just the living technology, all of these like characters that seem pretty cool. I want to see where Gus goes. I want to see where Willow goes. I love Luce. I love King. You're going to have to work on it, Ida, but we'll get there. I think that the show has a lot of personality. It's very quirky. It's very like well animated. I loved watching it. There was never a second I was bored. I give this episode an 8 out of 10. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I do hope that this becomes a show. Like, I could see the potential in this episode. Like, I was even talking about, like, oh, I wonder if, the bully character has a relation to her parents. I wonder if there's, like, all of these things, like Gus going to the human world. Like, I can see the little cogs. I can see where they can go. The question is, will the show live up to this potential? And I really hope it does. And I'm going to keep around to see if it does. Like, episode 4, I think might be better than this one.
You do realize that we're probably going to be reviewing various shows on this podcast. We'll be probably saying the same thing for the majority of them.
I mean, I could see us coming back to Owl House just because I was so I guess that's kind of its strength. I was so interested in the idea of Owl House and what was set up that like the idea of doing another 3 episodes is appealing to me later down the line. Like obviously we got to do Loki, we got to do the other stuff, and then we'll probably want to do like new things as well.
Yeah,
we don't have to do that.
I feel like if we go on and keep watching our other stuff, I would very much like us to revisit this down the line, even if we just do one video after we've all seen the whole show. I could just give our thoughts in general about it.
Oh, yeah. But I do think doing these first.
Why can't we skip the 3 episode at a time rule? What are you thinking?
Okay, Callum, this is why I think the 3 episode at a time rule was pretty good for this. Because we got to see the beginning. We literally stayed for like all of the setup stuff. We saw only the setup, and we are only judging the setup. And I like that. We saw the setup of the world. We saw the setup of the characters, and we saw the, like, you know, where the show could go. But we didn't see the payoff. We didn't see where the show goes. We didn't see what this setup was accomplishing. And I like that. I think based on the setup and the potential that could come, this show is an 8 out of 10 for this episode. I guess if I was judging the whole show all by itself, you know what? I would go 7. I would say if you put all 3 of these episodes together, 7 out of 10, good start. I can't wait to see where it goes. But this episode specifically, very strong 8. I loved it. I laughed. The ending kind of comes a little quick. It feels a little rushed.
Fair.
But I didn't mind it. I liked it. And yeah, I will be continuing to watch the Owl House. So hopefully,
Mission success.
I find myself to be a fan at the end. And right now, I could totally see that happening. But
Nice.
Callum, how about your rating? And then we'll end on Jack, because it was his pick.
Obviously, you boys have been praising this show a bit. This wasn't really quite my cup of tea, I'm afraid. Gravity Falls, even from its initial episodes, and there were some episodes later down the line, so hard to judge from, you know, the first 3 episodes. But even still, some some shows just still have this ability to hook me from the start with a more consistent environment and a subtle indication, even though you probably won't realize at the start, subtle indication that they're going to go through an adventure. There's going to be some growth in there. This for Owl House, I think the world was a bit bombastic to be introduced to, whereas in other shows I've seen, they give you the premise, then they introduce you to the world a bit. I've seen shows like Samurai Jack and Gravity Falls, and even Amphibia, where they do it in a bit more of an interesting way. Like even in Amphibia, they have an interesting twist that you start right off in the frog world, then you hear, oh, there's a rumor of a human. Ah, there's a human. How did the human get there? Then we see in the next segment that they do these episodes in like 2 episodes in 1, like Phineas and Ferb does. The beginning of the first one, you just get a brief visual synopsis, like no like silly exposition, just she got pressured by her friends to steal a box, opened it, poof. Okay, there you go. That's all you need to know. I like it when it does that sort of thing, which is probably another reason why I liked Amphibia better from what I've been seeing. And again, I think this with these kind of shows, I think this could have the potential for the character to grow. But as I said earlier, the morals, I mean, as well intentioned as they are, like finding your true potential with Willow there, not seeing yourself as the center of the universe to not harm others, as you say. Yeah, these morals in themselves are great, but I think the way these shows portray them are somewhat of mixed, and of course there's going to be some character development, so of course you can call me out by saying it's too early to say, but even so, I think it could have been handled slightly better somehow, either by making it a bit more positive in some way, or maybe like making them outright villains and just helping them find redemption in some way. Like, this would be so fascinating to me if you replace the Owl Lady with someone like Maleficent, like one of these great villains. Like, maybe make her more of a clearer villain to give her more of a motivation to be somewhat manipulative and a bit mean-spirited towards the main character. I think that would be great, actually. And then see some glimpses of humanity in it. I think that would be fascinating, honestly. I think maybe a good show could pull that off, right?
Yeah. I do also think it is worth bearing in mind within the world of this show, Ida is wanted. She's very much a wanted criminal. Which we'll delve into down the line, but
yeah. So there's a few things I question, like,
Surely witchcraft and demonry could have been seen as villains in the past. What's with Disney's morality, everybody?
Even with other shows like Gravity Falls, you get Uncle Stan. I think he has that balance better. Like he's obviously a rascal. Like you see him, somehow the tourists are too gullible to buy into this. But
here's the thing.
He's like, yeah.
I challenge you, Callum McRitchie.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have said the exact same thing about Grunkle Stan if you only saw the very beginning, where they need to establish that Grunkle Stan is kind of a sleazeball and not exactly a great caretaker at the beginning? Would you have said he is similar to Ida back then, not knowing what you know now, where Grunkle Stan did love the kids? Grunkle Stan the entire time was like a good guy. Would you have said things similar about him to Ida?
Not really, because Grunkle Stan, like Ida, is seen as a jerk. But here's the difference: Stan still cares. Stan is family, and even in like episode 2, for example, Dipper and Mabel go off on an adventure on their own, so they were kind of neglecting Stan, and there's a moral at the end of that episode where don't underestimate your time spent with your family, because you never know when that's going to pass by. So Stan, being the jerk that he is, spends the entire episode like trying to get along with people with like these bad jokes. Alright, we're getting better at that, really too. And then there's a scene where he interrupts some other people, and then comes to realize the cripplingness of not being with the family, which it's kind of a B plot, but he realizes it too. But Ida, on the other hand, is kind of doing irresponsible stuff and not really going much to character, at least compared to Stan. So even from these first 3 episodes, Stan has had more significant growth and is more admirable, yet at the same time still a jerk, but still family. So yeah, Stan was handled better.
To quickly weigh on this, I think episode 1 Stan is on par with Ida by episode 3, just because episode 2 Gravity Falls immediately goes for the Stan wanting to spend time with them as a family and go on a fishing trip. And I think Ida gets to episode 2 Stan by episode 5. I'm sticking with the episode 5 really is, by there you have the complete setup for this show. They are very much different characters. Stan is the lovable scoundrel.
Yeah, that's it. Lovable
comedic Han Solo type, I guess. Whereas Ida is this, I think they refer to her as like this foxy older woman, I think at one point. So yeah. They're different characters, both filling the responsible but not responsible enough to make the story boring character.
I mean, what's interesting to me is like Ida is definitely neglectful and kind of lets loose do her own thing to her detriment. But I'm thinking of that joke where Grunkle Stan literally let them have an axe. And I get that that's funnier, so we accept that more. But he let children have an axe.
Again, that Gravity Falls can also handle comedy a lot better than Owl House does.
Yeah, they're different vibes and tones. Again, later in episode 3 Gravity Falls, Dipper and Mabel use fake IDs to sneak into a bar.
Yeah, like even just you mentioning that has me in hysterics.
I think then maybe your criticism isn't necessarily with Ida being neglectful. Maybe it's the fact that like she wasn't neglectful in a funny way. Because arguably, if you look at it from the right light, Grunkle Stan is kind of worse.
Yeah. Again, you get to season 2's Nobody Seems. It's, Yeah, they are different shows, different tones and everything. But it is I think they're similar enough that they can fairly be compared, or similar enough that they can be compared.
Again,
I agree.
these shows came out with an impact from Gravity Falls. It's kind of hard not to compare.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, what is your rating for episode 3, Callum?
Take a wild guess.
Another 6?
Yep, another 6.
So would you say your overall rating is also a 6?
Yeah, I thought I'd get you
Kinda
to
has
interact
to
with
be.
it. Just to make it more interesting.
Well, technically, Callum's overall rating is a wow, I can't believe we've never done this before. If you add up just Callum's scores for each of these episodes, it is a 18 out of 30. So even then, Callum thought it was better than average, but like he didn't think it was great or anything. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe we've never thought to like add up just our scores.
Alright, I can see
I'll need to start incorporating that going forward.
basically, my verdict on the show, I can see the effort, I can see the appeal, but the way that it's trying to handle its morals and its comedy, as we mentioned, as well as what they're trying to represent, what they're trying to say, I'll give it a pass.
That's fair.
I mean, I feel that. I think that it is Jack's turn.
Yeah. So just on episode 3, off of that, I'm giving it an 8. That's about the same as I thought of episode 1. I really enjoyed both of these two. Of the first 3, the middle one being the weakest, just because it almost feels like episode 2 should have been, if they did it like Bad Batch, if they did it like the premiere of Bad Batch, episode 1 and 2 should have been rolled in together so that this is the world, we broke out of this prison, here's some more of the world. It's just it's almost more of a supplementary thing than its own story. It is its own story, but in terms of what it does for the rest of the show, it's this little, it's not your typical fantasy. Is sort of the point of that episode. But this one, going to the school, is a lot of fun. This is a setting that we will revisit, and it's introducing characters. These are, again, our main cast is very much Luz, King, and Ida, but Gus and Willow, very much additional sort of second-tier characters there. And then we have the rest of other students in the school do get named throughout the show, and again, Amity's whole situation and home life, as Neil was poking and prodding at, does get brought up.
Yes.
Yeah. Overall, for these first 3 episodes, I think I give it just on these first 3. I think I give it a 7.
Well, you gotta rate this episode, and then we add them up.
Oh, true. Yeah. Well, I gave this episode an 8, so an 8, a 7, and an 8 for me.
8, a 7, and an 8. That would be
someone who's faster at mental maths than me.
That would be, I believe, 8, 7, 8. That would be 23.
Cool.
I believe. Someone else who's smarter than me may want to check.
We'll get a calculator. Someone fill time while I add all this up.
Well, 8 plus 7 is 15. And then you got to add 8 again, so that's 5. And then 3, that would be 23. I believe. And for me, I said
23, correct.
For me, I said 6, 7, and 8. Once again, 8 plus 7 is 15, then plus 6. I guess mine is literally 1 less than you. I'm 22.
21.
Oh, I'm 21. Okay.
And then
okay,
6,
so 6. I guess I'm 2 less
Callum.
than you. Callum, your rating is Satan. I'm only just realizing this. You gave a 6, a 6, and a 6.
Very fitting with this setting and demonics and.
Yeah, I may or may not have kind of did that on purpose.
Callum is Satan confirmed. Callum's Mephisto.
Dear God.
But with that, let's move on to the final question. Once again, I like this show a lot, but the final question.
Yeah, we've been going for 2 hours now. Let's draw to a close.
Well, the final question will be easy to answer this time because I actually had a realization the other day where I was on Disney Plus and I was like, hey, didn't they used to add more pictures that you could make your profile picture? So I went and I checked it out. And yeah, they've added a ton of new ones. They got Sam as Captain America. They got one of Zemo on there. There's a ton of new ones that I just didn't know about. So my question to you guys is, what is your icon that you use on Disney Plus? Why did you pick that one? And who's the character you'd like to see get an icon?
Ooh, okay.
My answers I already know pretty fast, so I'll just go first. My answers are Peter Pan, because two reasons. Number one, Peter Pan is the first thing we covered on this here podcast. But also, Peter Pan has a special place in my heart because I love the Kathy Rigby Broadway version. And if I had not seen Peter Pan, I don't know if I'd be like, I went to Disney World and I loved Chip and Dale as a kid. But Peter Pan is when I was like, oh, this is mine. This is my character. I really connected to it. So, yeah, I think Peter Pan is kind of a good one to pick. I switched to Kermit and Mulan before, but I always come back to Peter Pan. Until, because they seem to add a new one with every Disney Plus show, Hawkeye's probably going to take that spot if they add one of Hawkeye, which is 100% the character I'd like them to add. What about you guys?
Well, for me, it's me and my family's account, so we all went with characters that we relate to, or some favorite characters. Like my mom loves Toy Story 2, so she went with Jessie, for example. But for me, when we first set up my account, I went with Jack Skellington, because my name's Jack and I'm skinny.
Fitting.
There you go. But no, since then I changed to Doofenshmirtz for a little bit once he was added. But ultimately, I'm currently Dipper on my account. That's that's been my profile for the majority of Disney Plus's existence.
Your picture for your early YouTube days was one of the Pines twins.
Yeah. I tried doing myself in like a Gravity Falls style.
And currently in a lot of your videos, you've got the Dipper hat.
Yeah, in the thumbnail, I still draw myself wearing it, but the thumbnail also has me with significantly shorter hair than what it's currently at. So I really need to update my art for that.
All I'm saying is Dipper seems to be a good choice for you, my dude.
Yeah. It's that love for Gravity Falls. So that was my current profile picture. What were the other questions? When you hope to see, and
yeah, that one you'd like to see them add.
What I'd like to see them add. I like your not as conventional, quirkier characters. On the Gravity Falls line, I think when I was looking, I was hoping they had Ford. I really like J.K. Simmons' Ford as a character, so I would have loved to have gone with him. But I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'd necessarily go with anyone from Marvel. I had to look through the Star Wars section, and I was tempted by Clone Wars Darth Maul, because Sam Witwer was amazing in that. Ultimately, picking someone to add. Thinking. I want to say Dr. Facilier, but I know he's already there.
He totally is. I don't believe Cusco from Emperor's New Groove. I think there might be a llama version of him. I don't know if the actual version of Cusco is there.
Is Yzma and Kronk have their profile pictures, right?
Yzma definitely does. Go ahead, Jack.
I'm looking. They have David Tennant, Scrooge McDuck already.
Nice.
Callum, you got to pick while Jack thinks about it.
Right. So when I first got onto Disney Plus, it was you who gave me like a Hercules icon, right?
I don't remember what I gave you. I think it was something dumb. I remember for a lot of people, I gave them a super stupid dolphin. There's a dolphin in there that like looks into your fucking soul.
Basically, I switched it, and my first choice, and I'm keeping this choice. I mean, I might change it later on, but I'm keeping this choice. It's Tigger, and I picked Tigger. Tigger is my childhood. Tigger is my life. Like, if you look through
your spirit animal.
You could say that. If you look through my childhood photos, I am literally carrying a little toy Tigger everywhere I go, and I still have the toy Tiggers up in my room. Like, I have a Tigger that I loved so much. I loved its stripes off. Yeah, I actually did that. And,
hey guys, I'm so sorry. I gotta jump early. Can you guys finish up without me?
Quick. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I love you both so much. Thank you for ending the show for me. I'm dead now. Bye.
Oh no. Cool.
But say that you only meant well, 'cause you did. But say that it's all for the
Still here. He hasn't left yet.
He hasn't left. Okay, now he has. He heard all.
Yes. So character you would like to see added. I've had a chance to think it out. They don't have Davy Jones. I want Pirates of the Caribbean Davy Jones added.
There we go. This character I can't get out of my mind, so I'm gonna mention him. Goliath from Gargoyles. He hasn't got his own icon, does he?
Huh. I don't see him. I feel like he should be.
Yeah, he should be. He must. He's awesome.
Not on Disney Channel. No. I don't think so.
Get him on there. Just get him with that scowl, or even like breaking out of a statue. Just get his face. His determined face. That's all I need.
Nope, he's not one of the current options. There we go.
All right, Goliath, make it happen. Now, Gargoyles is kind of left under the radar recently, but Goliath has made an appearance in one of those Disney mobile games lately as a fighting character, so they haven't completely forgotten about him.
Nice. Well, I know we had the DuckTales reboot, and that referenced your gummy bears and rescue rangers and everything. Who knows? We might get a Gargoyles reboot at some point.
Let me be a part of it. I could be one of the gargoyles with an actual Scottish accent.
Cool. Well, that was us three, our thoughts on the first 3 episodes of Disney's The Owl House. Again, hi, this is me. I love it. Highly recommend you check out the rest. Check me out, Jack of All Trades. I'm at Jack of All Trades on YouTube and on TikTok. Link to those will be in the description below. And Callum?
Yes, I'm Scott Meyer. I have been reviewing Owl House only because Jack told me to. Vengeance will be mine. And we're doing a pick-a-thon. So next week, I think it's Sherry's turn, I think. Yes, and then it will be Brooks. So I don't know what she's gonna pick, but sadly, it's. I think
she's been keeping it a secret from us. We don't know yet.
At least not yet, but we will sometime in the near future. I've got big expectations for her.
I mean, she needs to let us know at some point in the next 7 days before we record again, so we will find out soon.
All right, I'm gonna watch me some Amphibia, I think, and head off because for us boys, we record late at night. A bit of behind-the-scenes footage.
Cool. Well, until next time. Bye.
Oh, no, sorry, that's Warner. Sorry, I committed heresy. Sorry.
Da 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 da.
So say it!
No.
Bang! That's what happens when you double cross Disney, everybody! Not my